Back when AOC and the squad first got to Congress in early 2019, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi very quickly dismissed their influence within the Democratic Party.
You have these wings, AOC and her group on one side.
It's like 5 people.
Pelosi's comments disregards the influence that each of these progressive leaders has among the party's base. In the 2020 election, the squad's size grew with the victory of progressives like Jamal Bowman and Cori Bush. But Democrats will have fewer seats in the House, and the vast majority of the party's politicians are still aligned with the old guard, business-friendly wing of the Democratic Party. Now, Joe Biden, who has long represented this business-friendly wing of the party, will soon be sworn in as the 46th president. So what's next for the squad and the progressive movement? And what will the continued push for policies like Medicare for all, the Green New Deal, and a $15 minimum wage look like, both for progressives inside Congress and organizers outside on the ground? Obama's administration largely disappointed many young progressives who were originally captivated by his first run for the presidency in 2008, in which he ran as the progressive, anti-war candidate against both Hillary Clinton and John McCain. This disappointment stems from Obama's tepid response to the financial crisis, as well as his inability to fully chart a new path on foreign policy by fulfilling campaign promises like closing Guantanamo Bay. Obama had also promised and failed to end the war in Afghanistan, raise the minimum wage, block lobbyists from entering government, tax oil company profits to fund climate mitigation, and support Palestinian statehood. Don't forget, Obama was also criticized and called deporter-in-chief by immigration advocacy groups. These disappointed progressives began slowly organizing and building power during his terms in office, most notably through mass protests like Occupy Wall Street and Black Lives Matter. Then, under Trump, these movements mobilized against his administration's most egregious policies, like the Muslim ban and the attempt to repeal the Affordable Care Act, while they continue to grow and become more coordinated. Now, these disparate movements have matured into a whole web of organizations looking to build power and pass progressive policies. And this time, they're not giving the new Democratic administration the benefit of the doubt.
I feel like that's on Joe Biden's mind. Like, if I don't hold myself accountable and do what I said I'm going to do, then it's nothing for them to mobilize and possibly get me voted out.
Instead, they'll be hitting the ground running to pass things like a $15 minimum wage, the Green New Deal, and Medicare for all. And even groups that have won major victories are thinking about what they can do to help the rest of the progressive movement. Take the Fight for 15, for example. In 2020, they managed to get a $15 minimum wage passed in Florida, even as the state voted for Trump. Now, the group is focused on winning a $15 minimum wage in other states and at a federal level. And they see this fight as part of a larger movement.
When we win $15 an hour federally, it still doesn't matter if we have, the things that go on with immigrants, like fighting for immigration rights, fighting for women to have an equal opportunity as any man. Like, it's still many other battles that we have to fight.
In addition to the success of ballot initiatives raising the minimum wage, the November election saw victories for other progressive issues at the ballot box. Several states passed drug legalization measures, including historically red states like Montana. And Arizona even passed a measure raising taxes on its wealthiest citizens to fund the state's school system. But the National Democratic Party has been tepid in its support for progressive proposals at the federal level, like the Green New Deal.
You support the Green New Deal?
Pardon me?
You support?
No, I don't support the Green New Deal.
Oh, you don't? Oh, well, that's a big statement.
I support
that means you
the
just
ballot.
lost the radical left.
He didn't lose the left with that statement, but he did voice opposition to a plan that's actually quite popular. One survey of 2020 voters showed that 80% of Democrats and even 41% of Republicans support the Green New Deal. And while Joe Biden did support a $15 minimum wage during the campaign, many workers say his campaign in Florida focused more on winning over wealthy suburbanites rather than galvanizing the state's diverse base of low-wage workers.
Whenever you're focusing on people that's in front, you're focusing on the cash money people, their problems and their voices, but you're not focusing on the workers' voices. You're not focusing on the people who's disenfranchised.
There are Democrats like those in the squad who are trying to push the party in a direction that centers working class issues.
We are not supposed to be here to work
for political donors or political favors or the powerful. We are here to serve the people who are most vulnerable all the way up to the top.
But their agenda has faced major opposition from the dominant, business-friendly wing of the Democratic Party.
How are we going to pay for it?
So how will movement allies in Congress be able to push the rest of the Democratic Party to embrace popular progressive policies? Enter the Congressional Progressive Caucus. The Progressive Caucus has been a home for Democrats who want the party to prioritize tackling social and economic inequality since it was founded in 1991. The caucus currently has 96 members in the House, largely because it's traditionally been very easy to join. But that will be changing in the next Congress, thanks to new rules that the caucus is introducing. These rules aim to turn the Progressive Caucus into a more solid block of congressional votes.
But what these rules do is say, look, if you want to be in the Progressive Caucus, you have to do more than just sign up. Now you have to endorse or co-sponsor or vote for something like 2/3 of the legislation that the CPC decides is important, and you have to, on the floor, vote for it. Obviously, there's a lot of wiggle room for people in there, but it's the first time that they're trying to do something.
These changes mean the caucus is angling to function more like a party within a party. The hope is that progressives would have a stronger hand in negotiations with House leadership, since their votes would be essential for getting any legislation to pass. In December, the caucus tried out this strategy for the first time to demand that the next stimulus bill include direct payments. Once Biden is sworn in, this strategy will continue to be important because his administration will need to negotiate with the Senate in order to pass any legislation. This tactic could prevent bad legislation from getting worse. But the squad will still have a hard time getting progressive bills passed, since Pelosi is running the House and determines which legislation gets a floor vote. And Democratic leadership has blamed left-leaning policies like defund the police for the party's mixed results in the November election. So how can the squad help get progressive policies enacted? Well, their best chance might be to go directly to Joe Biden.
There is an enormous amount that Biden can do unilaterally based on pure executive authority and also based on laws that are already on the books that aren't being utilized. What the Progressive Caucus could do is say, all right, you need my vote on this garbage budget that you need so that the government doesn't shut down or doesn't default on its debts or whatever. Fine, but you have to eliminate $50,000 worth of student debt. You have to move marijuana out of this Schedule 1. You have to give Medicare to everybody who has coronavirus. So there's at least that if they're willing to be creative.
Progressive groups like the Fight for 15 are holding Biden to account as part of their strategy too.
We're hoping that he stands true to his word, and we possibly can get $15 an hour, a federal living wage.
But Biden isn't the only Democrat who progressives can push to support a progressive policy agenda. The threat of a primary challenge from groups like Justice Democrats could push even the most entrenched Democrats to support progressive policies.
And Schumer's a great example of that. Just having the threat of AOC running a primary challenge by her simply not ruling it out, has him looking over his shoulder. And you saw him come out and kind of change the conversation around student debt.
We have come to the conclusion that the President Biden can undo this debt. You don't need Congress. All you need is the flick of a pen.
Does he do that if there's no threat? Who knows?
So while it looks like progressives don't have much power to pass their wish list, they can still use the power of their seats as a bully pulpit to mainstream their ideas and push more Democrats to enact them.
What we're going to do is that we're going to organize and demand that this administration, which I believe is decent and kind and honorable, keep their promise. So that's what our next move is to make sure that the Biden administration keeps its promise.